Hey folks, what's going on? Ant Pruitt here. Hope y'all doing well. I'm late, running dadgum late. So sorry. My apologies. But life happens, and it just made me be about damn near 30 minutes late. So sorry, but we're still going to do this thing here in the smartphone photographers community that we like to call point and shoot. This is where we get together to talk about different tips and tricks that can help make you a much better smartphone photographer, because everybody has a smartphone, or at least almost everybody, and everybody wants to take photos, but the reality is that most of us don't take really good shots. We're going to show you how. We're going to do a challenge each week that's going to be based on different techniques and ideals and whatnot. And we'll discuss all of those photos. Well, not all of them, but we'll highlight some of them. And we'll discuss the different ins and outs and critique the shots and, talk about what we would have done, what we wouldn't have done, and how much we like the shot and how much we dislike the shot. All in the sake of knowledge sharing. You know what I'm saying? Tonight, joined by some moderators and members up in here. We're going to go all the way across the country since it's early for them. My man, Mr. Tony Busko. What's happening, my man?
Hey, how's it going, everybody?
It is unbelievable over here. You doing well?
Yeah, doing good. We actually had rain last night and today, and so I got some snow in the mountains here locally.
Wait a minute, California? Really? California?
Yeah. And then later this afternoon, it went away and got some sun back. So.
Wow. I guess I got snow coming over here if it's raining in California.
Yeah, it snowed in Northern California pretty well, so it's definitely coming your guys' way.
Great, appreciate it. It's good to see you as always, my man. Next up, we'll keep coming on across the country, heading to the east, but we're going to stop there in the southwest at Houston with my man, Mr. Michael King. What's happening, bro?
Not much. Doing really good. I'm enjoying the nice 70-degree, well, today was 78-degree weather.
Oh, you doing all right.
But next week we have rain, and it's going to get cold because the Houston Livestock Rodeo starting, and the trail rides, it always gets cold for the trail rides, and they start Monday.
Oh, boy. But that means there's going to be more dinner on people's plates, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, what I'm looking for is Friday when they do the barbecue cook-off at NRG.
Yes.
And they have some of the best barbecue. It's nationwide. Everybody comes in for the big cook-off, and the food is just. I
need to get to Houston. That is one of my goals, is to get down to Houston, Texas. Appreciate you joining us, my man. It's always good to see you in here, Mr. King. And
anytime.
Next up, and lastly, going over to the east and up a good ways to my man, Mr. Joey Kelley. What's happening, bro?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Attempting not to freeze up here. No, it has not been bad compared to what it could have been.
Of course.
Yeah, we've actually had a warm couple of days. Right now it's 23 degrees Fahrenheit outside, which for around here is actually
that's warm
not
there.
That bad for 9:30 at night. I mean, that isn't horrible. Tomorrow we're talking about a high of 34, but wind chills as low as -1.
Yeah, you keep that up there, brother. Keep it.
Yeah. So on This Week in Weather.
It's good to see you, Mr. Kelley. Appreciate you joining us. And, as usual, when we do this hangout on there, I invite the community to join us. Everybody in the smartphone photographers community is invited to join us on air and sit back and just chit-chat about all of the things that we share in the community, as well as in our community challenge. It's not a requirement, but it's nice to have more new faces in here besides the other ugly mugs that are in here with me, excluding Tony. He's still fairly new. He's not considered an ugly mug just yet, but you're getting close.
Not yet.
All right, so as I mentioned earlier, and I'm not going to keep everybody in here long since it's so late, we're going to try to zip through these things. We do a weekly photography challenge with our smartphones, and last week's challenge was won by our man, Mr. Michael King, and he proposed transportation. I took it upon myself and decided to put a little twist on that because I thought, in all honesty, transportation was a little too broad, you know. And I didn't think that it would challenge the community enough because, again, personally, I started this community to help myself get better at taking smartphone photos, and I want to help others get better at it. So there are going to be times where you got to challenge yourself. So that's why we have not only just transportation as a theme, but DuoTone transportation. Now, I know my man, Mr. Joey Kelley, he's not just your novice smartphone photographer. This is something he does all the time and does it for pay. So, Mr. Kelley, have you heard of DuoTone?
I had heard of it, but to be brutally honest, I didn't know what it was. It was one of those things where the term got thrown around, and I had never really dug into it, researched it, found out what it was. I am a person that likes to do an awful lot of black and white, which is no stranger to anybody that's watched my photos going by here in the community.
Of course.
And DuoTone is often lumped in with black and white. And I think, based upon what little research I was able to do, that DuoTone was actually a variance on black and white processing, so that when the photos were printed, they actually had a tint to them to make it look more like they were a color image when black and white was the only technology available. That's basically what I gleaned from it. So this is another one of those things where people are taking an old idea, applying it to a digital image, and using it to either make the image look old or to radically change the style.
Yep. And what you see a lot, at least from what I've seen a lot when it comes to duotone photography today, it's definitely something that's a little more radical in the images. It's not necessarily something that looks vintage or old, if you will. Either way, it's a nice technique to see, and if it's pulled off right, it's really well done. So let's go ahead and take a look at duotone in our challenge here. I'm going to share my screen and pull up everybody's photos, so bear with me here. And we'll highlight a couple of these shots tonight and take a look at our top vote getter. And yeah, we still have a pretty close race. We do have a clear winner, but we had a pretty close race in this, and I appreciate everybody participating. We only got 8 photos submitted, but this was a hard one. I'm the first to admit this was not an easy challenge, and so I didn't expect too many in there. But anyway, let's go ahead and take a look at some of these shots. Let's start with my man Delano Scott here. Let's see. I took this to show transportation at a standstill. Got some semis warming up in sub-freezing temps on a snow slush covered in a parking lot. He shot this with this LG G3 and edited this with Studio Instapic. Huh. Have you guys ever heard of Instapic? Studio Instapic?
Came up on my Google Play the other day as an app that I should try, but I haven't. It said something about instant square pick, which you can see how they do that. They take your 16 by 9 and then Photoshop a square around it. By the way, and before I forget it, and before we wander off of the topic too far, although we only had 8 submissions, they were by 8 different photographers.
Sure.
So that is kind of cool. We didn't get the sometimes we'll get 10 photos, 12 photos, but there's only by 3 people. You know, so.
And the usual suspects too. This was a few different faces in here, so that's good stuff.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah. So sorry, not to belabor the point, but while I'm yakking, you mind if I give my critique on this one?
Have at it.
All right. No offense, Delano, but this really does not speak to me because it's not, frankly, overly creative. The trucks aren't bad, but the trucks are very much in the background, and they're very much not the focus of the photo.
Yep.
The mirror, if you had a truck in the mirror, that would have been cool.
Yeah, that'd have set it off.
But the shopping cart's off to the left, the mirror on the right, and the fact that the trucks are not only in the background but they're also off center and blurry. I see where you're going with that, but sorry, dude, not very good on the execution.
Yeah. Well, what are your suggestions?
Well, if you're going to put the truck in the picture, get closer to the blasted truck.
There you go. I was hoping you'd say that.
Yeah, just saying. If you're going to put a mirror, in a shot, as much as we had to kick that last shot from last week out that had a really cool mirror shot in it because it was using the digital SLR, it was. Yeah, it was a really good shot. It was a good use of the mirror. The mirror had the image in it, as opposed to the reverse. And in this case, the mirror's fogged over. There's nothing really to say here. It would be better if he had tried to say that transportation was a shopping cart, because that's closer to what the image is in. Because that's what's in focus in the image.
Right. That's the highlight. Okay.
Yeah. So no offense, bud, but poor execution.
Okay.
So now I'm going to shut up and let somebody else tell you.
Yeah, I'm cutting you off now. Mr. Busko, what are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I mean, well, first of all, the I guess green bars on the top and bottom just kind of threw it off, and it just that too took away from the picture.
Mm-hmm.
And when you first look at it, I mean, it's you had to look closely at the photo and try to see about the transportation, with the trucks in the background. I mean, those are in the background and nothing much in the foreground area. I didn't like it. I mean, I hate to be that critical, but it didn't do anything for me.
And it's okay. We do this not necessarily to beat people up. We share our opinions, whether we like something or whether we don't like something. My whole idea with this is, if you like something, let us know why you like it. If you don't like something, let us know why you don't like it, because that's helpful information as a photographer just trying to get better at this thing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, like Mike Sweeney said last week about his photo with the limoncello. He took time to place everything all properly, and with this picture, it doesn't tell a story about transportation at all, in my opinion.
Right. And that's okay. Mr. Delano, he hopefully he's learned something for some of these criticisms. Mr. King, do you have any thoughts you'd like to share on this?
Interesting. But I have to agree with what everybody else said. If it's going to be the trucks, it should be the trucks up close. So close, but no cigar. And it's there's so many things. The mirror is distracting. The shopping carts. But if he was doing it on the trucks, I would try to have them be in the foreground as much more than they are. Just like I had probably a great shot for transportation that I couldn't get in because it was closed, because it was a 2 Santa Fe train, or better not ship freight trains, BNSF, head on. 2 head on at speed.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Goodness.
And I got a good picture of the engines after the cornfield meet, as they would call it.
Interesting. All right. Well, Mr. Delano, I echo pretty much what these other gentlemen say in here. My first thought was, again, lose the green spots. I mean, not spots, green bars. But that clearly came from your app there. I suggest once you get your full image like that, you can use your standard editor on your phone, whether it's something proprietary to your LG G3, or just grab Snapseed or Pixlr or any of these other free photography apps, and it'll just let you crop all of that out pretty easily. So you can
that's what I was going to say.
Try that out.
If they would have just lost those bars, just crop them out, it'd been a little bit better.
All right, so let's move on here to the next photograph sent in. All right. This one tugged at my heart. This one comes from Thomas Olsson, who we had to disqualify last week, but he had a misunderstanding, and we're all good now. But this shot here, he shot it with a I'm not sure.
Samsung something. Hold on, I'm googling.
All right. I'm gonna assume this is
Galaxy Note 3.
All right, so he shot this with the Note 3, and he tells a story about this car being a classic Cadillac. And what I dig about this photograph is, as soon as I opened up, the first thing I saw was the Cadillac logo. And for me, growing up with a mechanic in my family since the day that I was born, Cadillac just resonates a certain way with me as far as being classic, being timeless, if you will. And then I started looking at the rest of the image and saw that this was a classic car that has just been restored and shined up. And I looked at the back here, and I didn't see that this area was like some modern suburban house. This is sort of classical, even down to the background. And right here, this is somewhat distracting, but this is a white wall on some other tire, another classic, throwback look, if you will. And
it looks like a scooter to me.
It looks like a motorcycle.
Right.
Yeah, a motorcycle wouldn't have had a white wall like that. Scooter, yes.
And he nails it with the DuoTone. You get the true blacks in there, and then you get this almost magenta purple tone, mid-tone that's pulled out, and giving you a nice little sparkle to all of the chrome in it. I think this is very, very well done. I can't change much of anything other than, like I said, this is somewhat distracting here on the right side, but I do like the fact that it at least shows this is an old school white wall radio. But yeah, that's with Thomas Olsson there. All right, so let's start with you, Mr. King. You have any thoughts on this one?
Oh, looks like my granddad's car that he had in the before he traded it in, because he had an old Cadillac like that, and that same model. And I said, oh, and it just brought back some old memories.
Right.
I have to agree with you about the motor scooter or whatever that is. Most like a motor scooter or something that's in the that corner. I wish he could have moved it to take the picture, or come on to the car a little more, getting that one out of the frame. But everything else is just great, and just as I said, it brings back some memories.
Nice. Your thoughts, Mr. Busko?
Yeah, the picture is great, and of course, yeah, that motorcycle or the tarp or whatever over it, that's kind of distracting a little bit. Yeah, I was thinking, if he got on the other side, if he could have moved the bike, if he went on the right side of it, because you can see there's a tree on the top left of there, and it probably might have looked a little bit different, maybe, but who knows what's on the other side of the car on the left, but yeah, overall the duotone and the clarity of the car, it's really nice. I mean, it's really a great shot. And,
those Samsung sensors do a heck of a job, though.
Now, do you think, is that the little lens flare that was probably
right there?
Yeah. Is that the post or
that might just be from the lighting.
That's organic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Almost certainly.
Yeah.
Looking at the rest of it, because it's right there too. So yeah.
Because it's a pretty sunny, it's a pretty cloudless, sunny day, and the sun's just hitting that bumper just right, because it is a polished chrome bumper. It is going to reflect like crazy.
It's one of the hardest things about old car photography, once you get into the big chrome bumper era, is to not get that to flare.
Yeah.
And so many people don't even pay attention to that when they're shooting the cars that it's almost become a cliche to, if you want the true retro look, to get a flare in it. And then, of course, you sound like you're in a J.J. Abrams movie with flares going every which way, and
Gotcha.
and the Star Trek Enterprise having the wrong number of phasers and getting killed. And
Oh, gosh.
Don't forget, Abrams did The Force Awakens as well, and I've seen it, and it has a ton of flares.
Yeah, well,
anyway,
moving on.
All right. Joey, your thoughts?
Or I threaten to kill somebody. Anyway,
Good God.
all right, I have one major problem with this shot.
What's that problem?
Why in the friggin' heck is one of the duotones pink?
What's wrong with that?
According to everything I read, pink would not have been a duotone back when duotone was duotone.
Well, but there's still the whole concept of it being two tones and necessarily just bringing out the midtones of the image. You know,
Yeah,
so
but
the letter
okay, now this gets into aesthetics and questioning. Are we talking about duotone as a process, or are we talking about duotone as a capturing of a look?
As a finished product process.
Okay. Well, see, now that's the difference for me. Is that my duotone is very subtle, and it's using colors that would have been around when duotone was being used commercially to make the images pop more, and that's a different look than duotoning to a magenta.
Yeah.
I think the reason why I have such a problem with that is that that's not a naturally occurring color in nature, and it makes it, to me, that is very distracting, and it makes me I would not have gone with that color choice. That having been said, even if this was just straight up color, not duotoned, or a very, very good hard black and white, I would order a print of this. This is an amazing picture.
This hot.
Oh yeah, I mean, I am not kidding. I mean, this, Thomas, if you want to get back to, if you just want to throw this up as a hard black and white or something, let me know. I'll send you some money for a print, because I mean, this is just killer. But not for me in this duotone style with the magenta kick.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, as far as everything else goes, I wouldn't change a thing. I don't think you're going to be able to crop that scooter out of there without losing something.
Yeah, I'm gonna take the bumper off. Yeah.
Yeah, you're gonna clip the bumper off, which is why it's in the shot, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But to be honest with you, I don't find that distracting, and I would find it less distracting if it was not in pink.
Yeah, that makes sense, Joey.
Yeah.
If it were just its natural color of black and white, it would be. Yeah, I feel you.
Yeah.
Now, that was an Indian. I would have made sure it was in the picture too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, I don't remember where Thomas is, but Sweden. So, yeah, the chances of there being a classic Indian in Sweden.
Yeah, not so much.
Not so much.
All
Classic
right.
Cadillacs, rare enough.
Now we're gonna look at two more shots here.
Oh,
You
by
can
the
pick
way,
on me if
by
you
the
want
way,
Go ahead, Tony.
oh yeah, no, I was just about to say, to the last, we were talking about the duotone colors.
Yep.
It said that the most commonly implemented colors are blue, yellow, brown, and red.
Okay.
Just for FYI for everybody.
Yeah, but red is not magenta.
Yeah.
When they're saying red, they mean like a pure, hard red, not a magenta or a pink.
Those are your baselines, Mr. Kelley. That's how we'll look at it. Those are your baselines. Mr. Classical Photographer. All right, so let's pick
Mr. Comedian the second.
Let's pick on Mr. Joey Kelley here. Now, this is shot with your Nexus 6, I presume?
Indeed.
Okay. And for me, right off the bat, this didn't do anything for me because I see this as a path. I don't see this as transportation.
It's a rail.
So that's what got me. The phrase riding a rail and all of that, I get that, but you ride a rail inside of a rail car. You know what I'm saying? I don't see this as transportation. I see this as just like shooting the street kind of thing. But outside of that, this is a very pretty shot down to the clarity and the highlights. Did you even touch the highlights on this one?
This was okay. So I wrote it all out there, but it's easier to say it than it is to read it.
I didn't even read it.
Yeah, no problem. This is the Nexus 6 shot in color, black and white conversion, cropping, and structure, saturation, black and white conversion, and 2 or 3 other things, all in Snapseed. Yeah. This, as a black and white, is actually the desktop background on the machine that I'm talking to you through. Awesome. I am very happy with this shot. I have never once questioned it ever since I saw it in black and white. I was like, this is awesome. And yet, the first thing I read on a DuoTone when you're going to make a conversion is you start with a black and white. So I said to myself, let me find a black and white that I'm already happy with, and let's try the DuoTone on it and see how it looks. And I kind of like it, and I kind of don't. The DuoTone was done through the GIMP, or through GIMP, pardon me, not the GIMP, on a PC, post-process, but all of the black and white and everything was done in Snapseed. This image, by the way, has blown up so many railroad photography forums. I don't know how many people have told me, this is my new desktop background. So
I love the texture you have in this shot, Joey.
Well, you see, the thing is what you don't know is that this was shot while I was in the midst of guarding a railroad crossing that was active for 3 days, and the train had passed less than 5 minutes before. So for me, it's very much, transportation shot. But yes, this is milepost 23.13 or 17, excuse me, on the Belfast to Moosehead Lake Railroad, where I am an active volunteer.
Outstanding. Yeah. Outstanding. What are your thoughts on this, Mr. Busko?
I like it. Because I have a train station right by my house too, over in San Juan Capistrano, and I was thinking sort of the same thing too. And I was with the fam this weekend over, just kind of walking around in San Juan, and there was a train station. Silly me, I didn't take any pictures of it. But I see it all the time. I was sitting having coffee, and a couple trains go by. I didn't take no pictures, but
dude.
Yeah, but I like it. The only thing I was just curious, maybe like if the lens blur effect would make it, since given the distance, like towards the end of it, if what that would make it do, because everything kind of, to me, seems to be in focus, but towards the corner, I wonder if how the lens blur might look. I don't know, but overall, I liked it. I voted for this, and it was nicely done.
I mean, Joey, down to the little shadows showing up right here, all of this little fine detail. I really like that, man. I like it. What are your thoughts, Mr. King? I know you're in love with trains and tracks and whatnot.
I love it, especially looking at that the rail and the spike that holds the rails together. I love that, and the ballasting and all that. As I said, it speaks railroad, and it speaks to me it speaks transportation. Because with the railroad ties, as I said, the spikes and everything that holds the rails down, I really like it. It's one heck of a shot.
Good job, Mr. Kelley. Good job.
Thank you. I'd like to thank the Academy and my producer and my editors and the craft service table.
Okay, King Young.
Cue the music. Cue the music.
Let's get him off the stage. All right, we'll go ahead and take a look at our winning shot here, since we're a little low on time here. All right, and this is the winner, right? Last time I was wrong.
Yes. I believe so, unless it's changed.
Yeah, that's the fresh. All right, this one comes from a man over in Washington State, Mr. Chris Seam. I hope I'm saying your last name right. Oh, he's got a new phone. He's using a Samsung Galaxy phone as well. I'm not sure. Oh, S6, and he processed his inside of the Pixlr editor. That is a highly underrated editor, by the way.
That's just because you like it.
Well, it took. First off, I stayed away from it because I didn't like the UI. I didn't like the UI on the web, because it has like 3 different versions on the web that you can use for free.
Mm-hmm.
And it just didn't do nothing for me. And then one day I decided to take a dive into it on the mobile, and it just started to grow on me, And then I use it all the time on the web now when I want to do quick compression. Because I can have something that I pull from Google Drive or whatever, but I want to publish it somewhere, and I don't want it to be a 500 kilobyte photo, but still keep some of its integrity. Pixel does a real good job of doing the compression and keeping your image looking pretty good, So it's highly underrated in my opinion. All right. Anyway, back to the photo at hand. There. All right, Christine. This one here, I like how he sort of went outside the box with this. He didn't necessarily go with the car. He didn't go with the bus or anything typical. But this is a form of transportation apparently at this park or wherever he is. I don't even know what you call those things anymore.
Cable cars, ski lift, cable cars. That's probably for. I imagine it's probably part of the ski lift system, and these are just closed or more cable car type.
Right.
Where is he? He's
in Washington State, near us.
That would be a ski lift, almost certainly.
Nice. Well, this is well done. I love how he's playing off a diagonal with this shot. I think he would have perfected it if he brought down this top line, this top border, to connect right about there. But the tone on this thing, well done. The black levels are there. This magenta that I know Joey hates is there, but it gets it right. Nothing's all blown out. Good job. I wouldn't do anything else different other than just that one little crop right across the top. See if I can pull this off here. Yoink. Right about like that. Something to make it to where that diagonal comes to that corner. But that's just minor nitpick, as Mr. Sweeney would say. Your thoughts, Mr. King?
I like it too. He's nailed everything. And yes, it does make transportation, because that's it transports you from the base of the hill all the way up to the top to come back down on the skis. So I really think it's something else. I mean, the magenta. This one is not quite as much magenta. It's more red. Everything, but it does meet the whole definition. So I think it was really good, and I kind of agree with you about that little bit of a crop, but it's just more nitpicking too.
Yeah,
it's still a great shot.
Yeah, it's fine without it for sure, definitely. Mr. Kelley, you got that look on your face, and you just took a deep sigh.
Okay.
I was about to pull a Sweeney and say, but you're wrong. I actually agree with you on the moving of the horizontal line more into the corner. And that could be actually done post-process with a crop.
Yep.
I don't care for the pink-ish tint. However, I do think this is more towards red than the last one that I complained about. So I'm going to choose not to complain about it.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll just do it after the show, muttering under my breath. Yeah. But no, I think out of all of the shots that we got, this was probably the one that actually featured a mode of transportation in it that no one was expecting.
Right. Clever.
Myself included. This one caught me out in left field, and I went, oh, man. Yeah, it's a really good shot. I can't take anything away from it. It's a good use of duotone. I would be interested to see what this looks like in color and in black and white and as the duotone, because sometimes I find myself captured or limited by the style, and I don't necessarily like the duotone style.
Right.
So I wonder how this would look as a hard contrast black and white.
I can go ahead and tell you now, I think it would look 100% better black and white versus a standard color shot, because most of the time these little things here, they're not well maintained from a aesthetic standpoint. They're usually all worn out from the weather and whatnot. So you're not going to get any type of vibrant color from these things. It'll be a little bland. But I bet in black and white with all of the little shadows and stuff here, I bet that would kick ass.
Hey, Ant, we got a new name for Kelley.
What's that?
Joey Michael Sweeney Kelley.
Oh gosh.
Both curmudgeons.
Both of them.
I hate you all.
All right. Thank you for that. What about you, Mr. Busko?
I like it. It's it gives the how should I say this? Like the angle is done perfectly. You know, from the bottom right to the top left. Maybe the only thing, maybe if he kind of tilted the camera, or he could have done it in the app where he can kind of rotate a little bit so that the top left would kind of be a little bit more closer to the corner. And then that might, it's instead of the or he could have cropped it too, which would have done the same thing. But I think the angle of it is perfect. The colors, and it definitely, like you mentioned, takes away from how those, I guess, gondola cars or whatever, because I took a look on the web to see kind of what those things are called. Because with the sun and rain and everything, especially being in the Northwest, could get weather damaged, with everything. And these look like fresh, brand new, really clean.
Indeed.
Well, they do slap new paint on it on the gondolas. They do slap paint on them every so often, and they have to probably clean them up every now and then to get the rust and stuff like that off.
But again, the odds, my man, the odds.
Well, it depends on how busy they are and if they need to make work.
It's I'm sure if it's raining as much as it rains in certain parts of Washington, painting is the last thing on their mind.
Yeah.
All they want to know is, does this thing run safely and we can charge people for it? Yes or no? Please and thank you. End the story. All right. So again, Mr. Chris Seam, congratulations to you on winning this week's challenge. You are now on the clock, and the crowd goes wild because Michael King is still late with his sound effects. It's all right. Okay. But no, congratulations to you. You will be notified of winning the challenge and letting us know what our upcoming challenge for the community will be. Thank you. We all thank you for finally getting that right. All right. Now, before we get out of here, I'd like to, do one or two more of the discussions for the people that watch these hangouts on air. So it's not just about the photography that's shown off. It's more about knowledge sharing, answer questions here and there, and so forth. Now, was it anything in particular you guys want to talk about? I know Mr. Busko said pre-show he had something that he wanted to touch on. What was that you wanted to touch on, Tony?
Yeah, I wanted to talk about the aspect ratio on the camera settings, because when I first got my Moto X second edition, and even before, like, I had the Bionic Droid, I always went like not full megapixel, but I went to highest, not highest, sorry, let me take that back. I just went to the 69 aspect ratio. But then when I got the Moto X, I did some research online, like what's the best, thing to do. And because of the camera setting, it said a few blogs said just go ahead with the full megapixels, which would be, I think, 13 megapixels. I forget actually now what it is, but recently I've switched from 16:9 to a 4:3 on all my pictures, and if I do any cropping or anything, I'll do it post photo. I was just curious what everybody here and also out there, which you guys all use and everything, because it's sort of like a gray area. Same thing with like my camera that I'm taking pictures now. I've got like so many different variations. I've got 4:3, 16:9. I can do like 4:4 or something like that, and everybody has their own preference.
Right. Me personally, I'll go first. Me personally, I am a 16:9 aspect ratio person. I just am. Blame that on 720p and 1080p televisions. You know, blame it on that, because ever since those have come out, I've always wanted that wide aspect ratio on everything that I look at that's on the screen. Now, I have seen in my previous cameras, and I can't remember if my Nexus 6 does that, but I think it does. If you change the aspect ratio, you know, your camera is spec'd out at, say, 15 megapixels, but if you change the aspect ratio, if you take it down to 16:9, you only get 12 megapixels is what it specs it for. But 4:3, you get to 15, if you will. And that boils down to, you know, again, what is your preference? Because most of the time, in my opinion, I think once you get past that 10 at the least and then 12 megapixel mark on these smartphones, you're fine. You're fine if you have at least that much. You know, if you got 15 and go to 12, you'll be fine. Now, if you got 12 and go to 8, no, I don't recommend that. And even with the people that have those ultra, what they call them, ultra pixel sensors, such as like what HTC uses, they have larger pixels, and you get like a lower megapixel spec. I want to say the last one I had was like an 8 megapixel, but they told you, you know, hey, the pixels are larger inside of this sensor, so you can get more light in and take more lower light photos and yada yada yada. And it did take some decent photographs. I have quite a few of them. But when it came time for me to if I needed to zoom in on something, because not every time you could walk up to your subject. Sometimes I had to do the zoom. And the second I zoomed, I mean, it degraded not just, you know, 20 to 30%. It degraded damn near 100% because it didn't have the pixel density. You know what I'm saying? Mr. Kelley, you've experienced anything like that? Or what is your preference, if you will?
My preference, honestly, and like I said, I've been doing this for a while now. I tell you, when I was young, we didn't have all these fancy digital chemicals. And anyway, sorry. Mike is giving me a throwaway gesture. Oh, God. Anyway, in all seriousness, I am all about the resolution. I don't care what ratio I have to get. I want the most megapixels in every shot possible. I will do my widescreen crop post-process. I will do a square crop post-process. I will do anything post-process if I need to. But I have been bitten before by not having resolution. And the other thing about the like for instance, you were saying you like being the 16:9 thing, which is a preference, and I completely understand why. However, if you shoot in the 4:3, you can always make a 16:9 out of it, but you might find that you would make the 16:9 on the top of the image or on the bottom of the image, not just the center of the image like the camera will give you if you have it do the 16:9 for you. So I always want the most data I can get. And to be honest, most of the pictures that we're taking with these phones, you don't even need 8 megapixels. I mean, at 72 dots per inch on a screen, I can take a 2 megapixel image and put it up on Facebook, and people will ooh and ah and oh my God, that's so wonderful. And then I tell them, yeah, and I shot this 14 years ago, and this is about as good as the quality gets.
Yeah.
And they kind of go, oh, it is what it is. Yeah. The other thing that a lot of people don't understand is that megapixels are a rating. They are not an absolute.
Of course.
And one manufacturer's reckoning on megapixels is not necessarily the same as another manufacturer's reckoning on megapixels. So you can really only compare megapixels within the same camera manufacturer. And even then, again, it's a relative rating. So in other words, what I'm getting at is that the 13 megapixel Nexus 6 might be identical to the 14 megapixel Galaxy S6, for instance, because the camera's identical, or the two have the same number of pixels, but one is figuring it on megapixels low and one is figuring it on megapixels high, yada, yada, yada. Also, by the way, a lot of the quality complaints on smartphones have nothing to do with the number of megapixels, but the actual size of the sensor.
Size of the sensor is usually about the size of like a couple pinheads.
Yeah, exactly.
Very, very small.
And you can only cram so much information onto that sensor, and you can only take so long of a picture before it starts to overheat and you start getting a lot of noise.
Yep.
So a lot of what I tell people to do is get good shooting with a smartphone, and then if you're really got a passion for photography that you've shot with your smartphone, upgrade to a digital SLR, and then you'll really see yourself come uncorked. Because you now will have the technology to do a lot of these longer exposures and different things of that nature, which we just can't do because of the technological limitations. Right. And that's not anything wrong with the platform. It's just a limitation.
Right. They have limitations, but there are some hacks out there for some of the stuff that's done on a DSLR versus what's done on a smartphone. And we can get into some of those a little later on, but I know the very first hack that comes to my mind is the people that have those DSLRs, they have what they call neutral density filters that they can put on the front of their lens. Okay, you can take that same ND filter and somehow affix it to the back of your phone. I believe Amazon actually sells clip-on neutral density filters that will go over your lens, which in turn forces your shutter to stay open just a tad longer than what it would do for any other shot. And that shutter being open a little bit longer lets a little more light in, and you can get a whole lot of different effects from those longer exposed shots.
You're essentially using an analog hack on a digital medium.
Yep.
And that's fine. But the side consequence of that is that now, okay, you've got the longer exposure, but now you're more prone to blur.
Yep.
So it's an up and
totally
a down.
Still.
Yeah. And you really, I mean, a lot of what we complain about in here, blur and noise and grain and all that other stuff, it's really the same no matter if you're talking an SLR or a point-and-shoot camera or a smartphone. These principles all apply.
Yep.
And if you really want to get serious about this, you need to understand the triangle of photos.
Triangle of photos, Joey?
The triangle of exposure settings.
Okay.
And it's basically a triangle that has it's a triangle with 3 points. Wow, that was a deep statement.
That was
yeah, it was freaking... Yeah, that's good video right there. Almost as good as me eating chips and salsa and dealing with a cat in 2013. Wasn't it, Ant?
Good job,
little inside community joke there. But you've got shutter speed, ISO setting, and f-stop on a triangle, and basically the perfect exposure, quote unquote, is dead center. You've got the average of all three. And then if you want to play with it and you move to one side, say you have an action shot, you need to decrease your shutter speed. So that becomes the priority. So you slide over to that side of the triangle. That means you need to increase something else, which either means you're going to increase your grain, or you're going to decrease, or you're going to have to increase your amount of light that's available to you, or whatnot.
Changes.
Exactly. So there's all of these different properties of the photo that change. And if you really want to understand photography, you really need to understand that. Otherwise, you're going to be limited to pointing the camera at things, clicking and hoping.
Yep. That's all part of the fun.
Mm-hmm.
It is. I enjoy dinking around with some of these smartphone camera apps that you can get third party, and not all of them are free. I know Mr. Busko shared an article in the community here recently that mentioned stuff like manual camera. That was a popular one for both Android and iOS. Camera FV5, a better camera, VSCO or Visco. All of those are great options that if your phone has the hardware capability, they let you go in and just tweak all of those different little settings. I mean, to just little granular little settings to let you figure out what type of photo you really want to get. Long exposure and spot metering and all of that good stuff, man. I love it. I love it. What's that you got there, King? Well, now you pulled it away, so never mind.
Hang on, I had to unmute myself. It's on my camera apps.
Oh, okay. So yeah.
So, now one of them's Pinterest and Flickr, but all the camera stuff and.
Right. That's the thing. There's a lot of different options out there, not just the stock camera application that's on your smartphone. Go out there and look in your app store. There's a lot of free options out there. Depending on how serious you want to get, I actually would pay for them. You know, I paid for a camera FV5. I paid for a better camera, and it was worth it, you know, for me, because I want to dink around and try to pull as much out of these smartphones that I can.
I've done the same thing. In fact, I get more of the paid apps because they'll allow you to do more than the free ones. They're like, I use Manual Cam, Hydra for certain things.
Oh yeah, I remember you talking about Hydra. That was the one that did all of the HDR melding together, right?
And also it does another one. It takes the same. You got to be really still. It'll take, and then you have to have a camera that really is good about the
image stabilization.
And what it'll do is just take the same shot over and over to add more megapixels to it, and it gives it more resolution. Yeah. But like you were talking about, these cameras have gotten to the point now, they're just as good as a point and shoot. So I actually got rid of a point and shoot, and the two cameras I keep with me when I actually am doing serious stuff, I'll keep my my cell phone camera or my smartphone camera, and I'll have my SLR with me, because sometimes I'll use that smartphone to take a test shot so I can set up my SLR, because the pictures on here, it's so good.
Yeah.
And everything, so it's become with the megapixels and stuff like that, it's come just about the point where it's pretty much done in your point and shoots. It is a point and shoot.
To speak to that, I actually went on a photography little half-a-day thing here, 2-3 weeks back, and got out to the certain spot, grabbed the camera, SLR, standing where I want to stand, hit the shutter, nothing happens, look down, battery discharged, please change battery. And I went, fudge! And I went, do I have another battery? And I went, crap, I know I have one, I don't know if it has a charge. I went back, I swapped the batteries, I did have a charge, but for that first spot, I actually shot on my phone because I didn't have the battery swapped yet. And you know what? From where I was standing, I don't think the pictures would have been any better, because it was a wide-angle shot on the phone versus the SLR, honestly. I mean, technically, yes, they would have been, and I would have gotten a RAW and a JPEG out of it instead of just a JPEG, but the type of photography I was doing at that particular spot was not highfalutin, it was basic, and that was fine. By the way, one word of caution on the camera apps that you'll see out there. Oftentimes, they will reduce the quality of the shot. So if you take the picture within them, you get, instead of a full high-res shot, you might get like a 5 megapixel image, maybe.
Yeah, be
And
careful. Some of them are definitely like that. I can't say
yeah,
that about all of them, but
no.
there's quite a handful of free ones out there that will degrade. So you
I
have
was
to
going to
be
say it's
careful.
particularly problematic with the free ones.
Mhm.
My particular favorite is an open camera. I think it
Yep.
is that we've
Yeah, I
we've
remember
both
that one.
got. Yeah,
Yep.
open camera is actually open source, and it's free for Android, and it's one of the best free cameras because it literally is an attempt to give you total control over the camera.
Right.
And what's interesting about that is that some of the features the program has, my Nexus 6 and your Nexus 6, will not actually. It will not allow those features to work because of
Right.
a hardware restriction
Hardware
that has nothing to do
limitations.
with the with the software. Yeah.
Yep. But yeah, you can find this list of a few apps that we've been talking about. Just check out Drippler.com. There's an article on there. The best camera apps for Android. 7 to snap great shots. That's over on Drippler.com. Uh, as you can see, this is the big list of stuff. They even
Mm-hmm.
mentioned the Google stock camera, and I have to admit, when this thing came out for back when the Nexus 5 was released, I believe is when it came out. I had another phone, and this app was much better than the stock camera app on my phone. But yeah, they mentioned all of the pretty much everything that we've just talked about in here. So go on over to Drippler.com and look for that article there and check out those apps. All right, gentlemen, we're going to get up out of here, man. What's
Okay.
that?
I was gonna mention one thing. That manual camera also had. There's another app that you can download to see if your phone is compatible, um, or if you have access to those settings. Like if
Oh
you
yeah, right. Because some of them you have to have like
yeah,
Lollipop or something, right?
exactly. So like you can if your camera it runs a test. Like I ran it on my Moto X and it all failed. But you can do manual focus, manual white balance, manual ISO, manual shutter speed, and raw support. And if you're all green, then you can go ahead and use that manual camera app. But it's also good too if you're curious. If you have an Android, you can actually see uh, what your camera settings, what it can handle or what it can do.
Yeah.
If you're looking out for that.
Yeah.
Very
By the way, for
interesting.
what it's worth, there is a huge difference in the stock camera app between Android 5 and Android 6,
Yeah.
Marshmallow. And
Amen,
Marsh,
brother. It
oh
it
yeah,
definitely is. It's much
I was
better.
I was often chasing other apps to do stuff in Android 5 because I said, this isn't really all that much to, doesn't really all that great, doesn't do very well, blah 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 blah. The second I upgraded to Marshmallow, all of a sudden I'm like, this works so well, I don't need to go chasing after other apps.
And it's a
So
lot faster.
yes, it has
A lot
improved a lot,
faster.
and the spot focusing is so much better. Yeah, there's a lot of improvements to the Marshmallow camera app,
Yep,
and I do not regret upgrading in that respect at all.
no doubt. All right, gentlemen, we're going to call that a night here in the Smartphone Photographers Community Hangout on Air. I'm going to allow you guys to tell everybody where we can find you online and anything that you'd like to plug, whether it be some of your work, your photography projects, what have you. So let's go down to Houston and check on my man, Mr. King. Where do we find you and your work?
I can be found on the web as anywhere, Flickr, Facebook, whatever, Google Plus, either Michael King or Michael King 4023. And this weekend, I can be found at the Bel Air Civic Center at 9 a.m. through 12 o'clock for the Houston Area Apple Users Group, HOG.
Hog, baby, hog.
And our emblem is a hog with the Apple logo in its mouth.
Mr. King, thank you as always for joining us, my man. It's good to see you, and I'm glad you're looking better and you look like you're feeling better. That's good to know, my man.
Yeah, I've been not I've been doing a lot better. Last week was really bad. I was in and out of the hospital, so
It's good
and
to see you.
I'm still doing a little bit better.
Good, excellent. Appreciate you hanging out, brother. All right. Lastly, well, not lastly. Next, we're going over to Maine. my man, Mr. Joey Kelley, where do we find you and your work with your blue gloves on?
I was going to say, still auditioning for the Blue Man Group, and not doing very well. I'm too short. Anyway, now, in all seriousness, folks, this is how serious I take my scanning of other people's slides. I wear gloves.
That's how it should be, damn it.
Yeah,
well done,
and
sir.
I'll tell you what, these things they hold the sweat in too. So it's anyway, drives me nuts. Anywho, you can find everything you want to know about me. Okay, mostly everything you want to know about me. Everything that's fit to print at Joey, Joey Kelley, KELLEY.com. And then from there you'll find photography, you'll find other things. I have now been published twice in a National Railroad magazine with articles feature length. I am working on a couple of histories of local railroads up here, and all that stuff is going to be hosted, housed, pointed to, etc. over at Joey, Joey Kelley, KELLEY.com. If you drop the E in Kelley, the second E, you'll get to somebody very different. And I am not affiliated with the Kelley Circus.
Lessons learned.
Or another plan.
Lessons learned. Mr. Kelley, thank you as always for joining us, and thank you for what you do here in the community, my man. I appreciate you.
No problem.
All right. Lastly, we'll go back over to rainy California. Mr. Tony Busko, where do we find you and any of your work and musings and projects that you're working on?
Yeah, well, you can find me on Google+, Twitter, Flickr, FOP. Well, all those minus FOP. It's TonyBusko over at Twitter, Google+. And then at FOP, it's Moosey Geek, MOOSEYGEEK. And yeah, that's it for now, where you can find me. Oh, and also Instagram as well.
All right. Thank you for joining us, my man. We always appreciate you being up in here.
Yep, thank you.
All right. Lastly, myself, find me here in the wonderful world of Google+. Just search for Ant Pruitt, and you'll probably see my handsome mug there. Or you can go on over to antpruitt.com to see all of my other content, ranging from mindless chatter to videos to photographs to smartphone photographs, whatever. It's all about me and digital content that I like to try to create. I am still in my little creativity rut, but I think I'm about to break through. With the help of community member Miss Liana Lahua, I am stepping into a challenge with myself, if you will, similar to my man Mr. Joey Kelley, where he had a year in Maine taking photographs. Remember doing that, Mr. Kelley?
Oh, yes. I got about 93 days into it and discovered that you can't manage an apartment house, run a photography company, build your computer business, and run around the state at upwards of 5,000 miles a month to take pictures. It kind of got a little overwhelming.
Okay, and so the thing is, I'm learning from you. I'm not going to do it for a year. I'm challenging myself, Ant Pruitt, I need to shoot something with my camera. I need to shoot something with my camera for 30 straight days. And when I do that, I'm going to reward myself. Okay, so that is my challenge, and hopefully by shooting something every single day, because that was part of my problem with my whole creativity rut that we discussed last week, was some days I just didn't shoot, and because I had a mental block, and I was like, I'm not even going to bother. That doesn't even look right, so whatever, put the camera back in my pocket. So that's all going to change. I've already started it, and I'm hoping to, well, actually not hoping, I am going to publish these photos for the next 30 days. Content-wise, I can't say it's going to be great, but I'm going to shoot something every day, and I'm going to publish it on antpruitt.com. Be sure to go there and check that out and subscribe there so you can get those posts automatically in your feeds, all right? And next, you can check out this community's website. Go to smartphone-photographers.com to see all of these reruns, hang out on there, if you will. And look at other blog posts that are in there besides just the video. We have different things in there where we'll highlight community members and things that they're working on, or just little stories and anecdotes or what have you. It's a nice website and full of other interesting content. We do this thing every Thursday at about 9 p.m. Eastern time, saying it's today, that is, but about 9 p.m. Eastern time, and it's all of the community members. You're welcome to join. Just hit up myself or any of the moderators if you're curious and interested in joining the smartphone photographers community. We'll do a little background check, make sure you fit in, and we'll go from there. So until next time, be sure to hit like and subscribe on all of these feeds and pass this along to all of your friends and family, and get out there and start shooting. That's what I'm going to do. I'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you all for watching and for all the support. Peace out.